The phylum Chordata is the phylum that we are located in, that we are classified into. So it concludes vertebrates, but there are also some invertebrates. So it is both vertebrate and invertebrates. When we look at why all these organisms are classified together, we can talk about the shared common characteristics. So the presence of the notochord, notice that notochord, chordata. The hollow dorsal nerve cord, that's with no H, but that is our nervous system. The postanal tail and the pharyngeal gill slits. So those are the characteristics of all chordates. So I want to talk about the invertebrate chordates. The first group is called the cephalochordata. So this means head. So these organisms have all 4 characteristics as adults, all 4 chordate characteristics. Okay. A common example of a chordate is called a lancelet. Or there's another word that you might see that is called the amphioxus. Amphioxus is an example of a cephalochordate. The other type is called the urochordate or urochordata. And these are very interesting because they lose all of their chordate characteristics except for one as the adult. So they retain only one chordate characteristic as an adult. And it is not the one that you might think. You might think they should retain their nervous system. That would be a good idea. But if you are a sessile filter feeder, maybe you don't need your nervous system. Maybe you should retain your notochord so the muscles can attach to something. But again, if you don't have muscles, then why would you need that? So the only thing that as an adult that these have retained are the pharyngeal gill slits. Weird, right? So they lose their brain, they lose their postanal tail, they lose their notochord, but they are sessile filter feeders as adults. So these are sometimes referred to as tunicates. So this is an example of some tunicates. And if you look at them, you would think these are related. These are in the same phylum as us, right? And they actually, sometimes they kind of look like sponges. When I went to the Caribbean, it was a really big deal that one of the Caribbean islands that we visited actually had tunicates. And so it was like, that was where you would go when you were snorkeling to actually see tunicates. They are also sometimes referred to as sea squirts, because if you pick them up out of the water, they will squirt water out. So this is their larval form. Notice that they have a mouth and an anus, and they have a notochord and a dorsal hollow nerve cord. So the larvae are actually mobile. And remember that we talked about that the mobile larvae let them move into new environments. But as adults, they are sessile filter feeders. Very interesting. So if you look at them, they have this outer tunic, which is really weird. It actually contains cellulose, which that's a plant structure. So I'm not sure how, they don't even really understand how they have cellulose. And then they have these pharyngeal gill slits. And so water actually comes in through this opening up here and out through the anus. Remember that in sponges, water comes in through the body cavity and out through the osculum. So the filtration is different than we observe in sponges. So let's look at the Cephalochordata. This is my lancelet. This actually, to me, looks a lot like a larval lamprey, which is the next groups we're going to talk about. So here they are just filter feeders. They actually use their postanal tail to burrow down into the sand, and they're simply just filtering water through their pharyngeal gill slits, which is connected to their digestive system. That's their respiratory system. And that is the structure of the cephalochordates, or the Amphioxus lancelets.